I'm working on a bow right now for a buddy at work. He ordered this hickory board stave. I think he ordered it off of Amazon. It's literally just this. I mean, it's this wide, and then I've already cut out the nocks. I mean, that's how narrow it's gonna be. And then I think it was 70 something inches overall, and I cut 6 inches off the end. And then I glued that back right there for the handle. See, it used to come out to here, but I chiseled some of it out to kind of form the handle. What I'm gonna do is, so I've already filed it down to 1/2 inch. I'm gonna take a little bit more off before I fire harden this. One thing about using a board as opposed to a stave is that the board, you see the grains running through, it's just cut out of the log. See, when I would use a hickory log, I would just take the bark off all the way down, and then the layer of cambium is what it's called. And then you have the back of the bow. That part of the hickory is very strong. But the board bow does not have that because it's cut through the grain. So to counter that, to make sure it doesn't break, we're gonna glue a piece of rawhide all the way down the bow, rawhide from a deer, and that'll make it to where it won't break on this side. So on hickory, the belly of the bow right here is extremely weak. So what you have to do is what you call fire hardening it. I'm gonna put it over some coals and basically cook the bottom or the belly of this bow right here, and the heat's gonna drive down into the wood, and when I start tillering the bow, I'll get down to where, to where I want to, but I'll basically char all of this, and the wood under that won't be charred, and that's how I want it, because if it was too thin, I would have very little room for error. So I'm gonna leave it thick like this so I can have a little bit higher margin of error, and I can go back and fix it later. But I'm just gonna fire harden it one time. I need to make sure it works. All right, I've got it on the jig. This is where you heat the limbs. It adds back set and it strengthens the limbs. I have to do this before I add the rawhide because it'll melt the rawhide. Looks like a good bend through the limbs on each side. So I gotta get the charcoal going and get it over the charcoal. All right, so I've dug a hole about the length of the bow. Got 2 sets of coals, roughly the same size. So we're gonna let them cook for a little bit and get real good and hot to the touch. Then we'll come over here and put the bow on these cinder blocks. Maybe have to lower it down to put it on those squares, triangles. Just you watch it and flip it every 15 minutes or so. You want to go for about 2 hours and just make sure that the heat's getting equally distributed all the way through the limbs as best you can. You can mess it up, but if you have the limbs thick enough, then you probably are in very little danger of doing that. All right, so I've got the coals spread out. See, they're pretty even based off of what I can see. I'll let this sit for about 15 minutes. And then after the 15 minutes is passed, I'll come back and check it. And most likely I'll have to end up putting this limb on this side, flip them, adjust the coals a little bit to see where they're warming up. But I mean, it's hot right there. Like, I try to have a little bit less by the handle. I mean, yeah, that's hot. So we'll give 15 minutes and come back and check it out. All right, let's check it out. 15 minutes is up. Still pretty warm, but let's see how the coals turn out on there. No, barely anything, if anything. I like how that's turned out so far. I feel like this is pretty good because the bow's going to be bending mostly through here, and looks like it will be mostly bending through here. And the tips where it's white down there, that's going to be recurved, so that's not going to bend much at all, if any. Okay, we're going to talk real shortly, real briefly about what backset is and why I wanted this bow to be bending the opposite way of the way you're going to be drawing it. Simply put, backset, the more the tips are forward of the handle, the more efficient the bow is going to be and the faster it's going to shoot. So I don't know if you can see this bow, but these tips on this bow are about 1 inch behind the handle. And that's just because design. Osage is really good at not having string follow, but this one ended up with string follow. So that's just because I made the bow too short for my draw length. I've been drawing it way too far. So then I made this hickory bow out of a hickory tree in my driveway, and I fire hardened this one just like I did with this hickory, but some wood popped out of it when I was tillering it, messed the whole process up, and this bow ended up being 33 pounds at 29 inches draw length, and that's not what I want. It's not strong enough to kill it. Well, it is enough weight to kill a deer, but I just don't want to hunt with that. But this one has the recurves, and I think it has 3 inches of backset, 3.5 inches, 3 inches. So this one's pretty efficient. For a 33-pound bow, it's going to shoot pretty fast, which 33-pound bow won't shoot that fast anyways, but it'll still shoot a lot faster than it otherwise would have if it was string follow. Now this bow, just taken off the heat, off the coals, has 3.5 inches of backset. Will probably end, after I tiller it, it'll probably end with 1/2 inch to 1 inch of backset without the recurves. Now I'm gonna add the recurves, which will help that a little bit, but just as a reference, this bow, like I said, ended at, it was 3 inches of backset with the recurves, probably 1.5 inches without the recurves. It started out at 4 3/4 inches. So when I tillered it and I started bending it, it started to lose backset, because this is why we're fire hardening the hickory wood. When the bow bends like that, this wood is being compressed. Same up here. And hickory is not very good at being compressed. It's really weak, so it wants to stay bent after you unstring it, and that makes for an inefficient bow. You don't want that. It's not going to shoot fast. So you fire harden it to harden those belly fibers so it'll spring back to form. So you can kind of see how these limbs kind of go forward of the handle a little bit before the recurve, like this one. But it's just inevitable with hickory. It's hard, really hard to get a lot of backset. Osage, this is Osage. You don't have to heat treat Osage, because Osage is extremely strong under compression. When you bend it like that, it's very strong under compression, and it's very strong with the back of the bow being pulled apart. So that's why I like Osage, and I prefer Osage.
I'll get some water on the pot, on the stove rather, about to boil. And then I've got my jig set up over here where I'm gonna recurve the tips of this longbow, hickory board bow. And you see where the whiteness of the wood shows up here, so it didn't really get fire hardened. And that's the area which we're gonna recurve. So in order to do this, we have water. We need to get that to a pretty good boil. And then once you get it boiling, you can cut it down a little bit lower to about 3 or 4 is what I usually do. And then you put the tin foil over it, and it starts to steam, because you really want to steam the wood, and it's going to steam the wood all the way throughout the thickness of the wood, and then that'll allow for you to get it clammed on there and bend it. And if it's hot enough, you'll steam for about 20 minutes or so. bend, it won't crack or anything, so it's the safest way to recurve it. Okay, so I've got it to a pretty heavy boil. What I'm gonna do is set it in there. You wanna set it, you know, pretty deep in there because I wanna bend all the way back to this portion to be safe. So I usually just get something to set it on back here that's close to the same height just to keep it, you know, kind of flat on there. And then all you're gonna do is put the foil over it, clamp it down, close it down, and then close it off to about, turn it down to about 3. So this doesn't have to be super tight, but you want it tight enough to where it at least holds it in there a little bit. But, so that's what we'll run with right now. See, there's a pretty good bit of steam coming out of there, so we'll wait, set a timer for 20 minutes. And once the 20 minutes is up, I'll show you what we do after that. So I was steaming the first tip. That's the second one there. It'll be done in about 5 minutes to bend, but you want to keep the wood relatively thick, so that's right under 1/2 inch. And the thing about that is, because if that happens, if the wood's real thick, you can take that off and it doesn't matter too much. But if the wood was thin and that happened, it can mess it up pretty bad. But see, all that wood's gonna be taken off. Video? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you can see I'm bending the recurves into the tip of the wood. I've been getting my mom and Megan to help me with this all morning. I've been telling them that it's very, very time sensitive. So we gotta get it on there and bent before the wood cools off. So you can also see my highly technical Skippy protein peanut butter that I'm using to stop the bend. And by doing this, I can ensure that the bend in this limb's gonna be exactly the same radius as the bend in the other limb. Anyways, I don't want to bend it too much because I want it to be a working recurve since this is gonna be hickory. And yeah, so I've got the bend in it. What I did was I talked about it earlier, but boiled some water and I steamed it for 20 minutes. Yeah, I steamed it for 20 minutes and that should get it heated up all the way through the limbs and will make it to where it won't crack. Because earlier I did it and I didn't heat it long enough and it cracked a little bit, but the wood was real thick so I could go back and I sanded that down and got all the cracked wood out of there so it didn't matter. But see, now I can already grab the wood and it's dried off. I mean, not dried off, but cooled off. And that's why it's so important to get it done quick because it cools off so fast. So I'm gonna leave it, hold it for a little bit longer, and then I'll take it off of the jig, and then I'll put the rawhide on there and I'll show you what you do with that. All right, so now I'm fixing to put on the rawhide on the back of this bow. See, when I make my hickory bows, I cut it out of a tree, and this is a board. So the difference is that you see the grains are running parallel or vertically up and down the bow. The difference is the stave I would get out of it would be have the grains going down like this, so down throughout the bow like that instead of across the bow. With board bows, you can make a bow out of it and not back it, but we're gonna put a backing on it with some deer rawhide that I got my buddy to order from Clay Hayes. And y'all go check out Clay Hayes' channel. He's awesome. I've literally learned so much from Clay Hayes with bow making. You learn a lot as you go, but he kind of guides you, and he has really detailed videos. He knows a lot about it, so go check him out. But the rawhide is going to serve as the backing, so it's going to serve as the growth ring going across the back, and we're going to glue it on there with Titebond 3, and it's just not going to come off. So now I've got the rawhide on there. You can kind of see it a little bit in there, overlapping the sides, but I've got it wrapped up pretty tight with this shirt, cut it up into strips, and tied it off in the middle there. But what the shirt is doing is holding it down till it dries. So I'll come back to this in 24 hours or so, see what it looks like. Might check it tonight, I don't know. But all I did was run a bead of super glue all the way down the back of the bow, and then flatten it out with my finger. Laid the rawhide on there, and you have to overlap it about 1/2 inch in the center so it'll stay together. And then you just wrap it with a shirt, and you wait for it to dry out. This is the Osage bow I'm working on right now for myself to deer hunt with, but I wanted to show you the purpose of the rawhide. So with Osage, you follow a single growth ring all the way down the back of the bow. And you can see I've already done that here with this one. So that's what the rawhide's gonna be doing on the back of that hickory bow, is being this growth ring, so it's unbroken. Okay, so this part of the process of making a bow is called tillering. And this is actually the only part where you're actually making a bow. Anybody can carve the bow, but this part is the hard part. So what you're doing is you're taking off wood across the whole limb on each side to make them bend perfectly equal all the way throughout, or as close to perfect as you can get it. And what I have it on here is called a tillering tree. And what you do is you just bend it down a little bit, and I have it marked, so it's 18 inches. And then you just keep pulling it down. So I'm gonna try to get it down to 20 inches. I don't know if I can do it. Let's see, we can do it with a video. There we go. So that's down to 20 inches. You can see right there, looks like it's flatter. It's bending more right here, so we need to take some more wood off in this area. That one looks pretty even. Maybe take some more off the whole limb, maybe out here further. A way I like to do it is to get a flat, something that's long and flat, and you can tell where it's bending more, so it looks like it's bending less down here towards my thumb. Need to take more wood off there. And then on this limb, let's see. It's pretty even. It's pretty straight, like I said, in the middle there. So I'm gonna take some more wood off of there, but we'll mark it with a pencil and just start taking off in those spots. And then you start to shorten the string the more you take off the wood. So if I was to put on a short string right now, then it would pull all of the back set out for sure, or break, because it's just too much stress on the limbs. So what we're doing is taking a lot of wood off and gradually working it down. You can see how this string is extremely long. I'll shorten it as the process goes on, but so I'm just at the beginning stage of tillering. But once I finish this bow will be pretty much done. See, the rawhide's on it. All I'll do, I'll put some rattlesnake skins on it for a buddy, and maybe a beaver tail handle. I might come back and do that later. So I'll just have to cut the handle in, cut the shelf in, and this bow would be done. Got a short string on there, and it looks pretty solid. The tiller does so far. So it's about 7 inches on that side, and about right over 7 on that side. It's pretty solid. So let's get the weight on it, because I like to hook a scale up to this. This is how they say to do it. But you hook a scale up to the string and pull it down. You never pull it past your desired draw weight, and that leaves you with less set or string follow. So
we'll do that and we'll just keep on going. I'm done tillering. Like I said, that it took me 20 minutes to get that finished up. The last part of it, everything else took a while. Let's see. This is gonna be the bottom limb. Right under 6.5, right over rather. And right over 6.5. So that's about perfect. That one's gonna be a little stiffer than the top, which is okay. That's perfectly fine. All right, fully finished hickory board bow. Let's string it up. I'm happy that turned out. Now, you'll just bear with me when I shoot this. It's a left-handed bow for my buddy, and I can't do anything left-handed, so we'll see. I could barely even get my shooting glove on left-handed. That's good. All right, let's check brace height. So it's 7 inches on the dot on the top limb, 6 7/8 on the bottom. So that's just about perfect, what I want on my bows. And it's a 6-inch brace height. So when I was measuring the distance from here to here and here to here, I was just checking the tiller, showing you the tiller, making sure it's bending properly. And then when I measured from here to here, that's called the brace height. So that's what, the brace height is measured from the string to the deepest part of the handle. Main thing with it is so you don't hit your wrist. So this is 6 inches, so it's gonna hit my wrist. With a self bow, it has to be 6 inches to about 6.5 inches, no more than that, or you're pushing it. With fiberglass bows, like what my dad shoots, he has his all the way up to 7 inches, and his string just about won't ever hit his wrist if he's shooting properly. This one, you're gonna hit your wrist just about every time. But first arrow through it, let's see how it shoots. Like I said, bear with me, I can't shoot left-handed, but feels pretty good.
That's crazy. Let's shoot one more time.
I didn't get it all the way back to draw length because I'm weaker in my left arm. So it measures the weight, the draw weight on it at about 28 inches. It's right at 45 pounds, which is what he wanted. And I was trying to get it between 40 to 50 pounds, but this landed right on the money. I could really see how it shoots if it was a right-handed bow, but I just cannot shoot a left-handed bow. Maybe we'll get my dad down here to shoot it because he shoots left-handed, or can. So from a board, a plank, to a finished self bow. Fire hardened it, put some rawhide from a deer on the back. Got that rawhide from Clay Hayes. And my buddy killed some timber rattlers that I'm gonna put on the back here to camouflage it. But that's pretty amazing. You can, he ordered the board off of Amazon, but it's pretty crazy. You can literally go to Home Depot or somewhere like that, and Lowe's, and get a hickory board and make something like this out of it and kill a deer with it. It's pretty crazy. But thank you all for watching. I've got a Osage bow that I'm working on right now, and I'll show you all the whole process with that too. There's a lot of similarities, but there's also a lot of differences. So we'll walk through that in the next video, next bow building video that is. And yeah, thank y'all for watching. Like and subscribe.